Imagine a man walking into a crowded room. He doesn't speak, doesn't gesture, doesn't try to impose himself with his voice or exaggerated presence. And yet, something about him changes the air around him. Conversations, slow glances follow him, and women instinctively rearrange their postures as if something invisible were touching them. This man isn't rich, famous, or statuesque. What he carries is more ancient and more brutal, concentrated testosterone energy undiluted by modern insecurities. A force that communicates without words, that there is someone there who doesn't need permission to exist. The world isn't hungry for more nice, understanding, and politely emasculated men. The world, and especially women, are hungry for men who exude an energy of dominance, who occupy space with intention, and who provoke discomfort wherever they go, simply by unapologetically being there. And this is where the first contradiction arises. Society teaches that the seductive man is the gentlest, the most sensitive, the one who listens and adapts. But female biology tells a different story. The latest research in neuroscience and evolutionary psychology confirms women are instinctively attracted to men who represent controlled risk. Men who seem able to protect or destroy, but who choose to contain that power with predatory self-control. What seduces is not affection. It's power disguised as tranquility. It's not romanticism. It's the veiled threat of a man who knows what he wants. This energy cannot be bought, faked, or imitated with ready-made phrases. It emanates from the nerve center of your posture, the intention in your movements, the firmness in your gaze. This energy has a name: testosterone in action. And we're not just talking about hormones. We're talking about the archetype it builds. Testosterone is decisive movement, absolute focus, and a low tolerance for what doesn't add up. It's what transforms a simple no into an insurmountable barrier. It's what keeps a man from over-explaining, over-justifying, over-trying to please. And it's precisely this that makes him an object of almost unconscious attraction. Because when a woman feels this energy, she knows she's in front of a man who doesn't need her to feel complete, and it disarms her. Nietzsche said that happiness is the feeling that power grows. But what he didn't make explicit is that the power that grows most is power over oneself. And that's what women detect in seconds. It's not the car, it's not the bank account. It's not what you say you do, it's your relationship with your own silence. It's your ability to remain calm when she tries to test you. It's your lack of haste when the world spins in despair. It's your clarity when everyone else seeks approval. This energy is rare because it requires something few possess: emotional self-sufficiency combined with conscious physical presence. What you'll understand in the next few minutes is simple yet brutal. It's not what you say that awakens submission in a woman. It's what she feels when she's around you. True feminine submission, not forced, not performed, is born when she realizes she's in front of a man who won't be molded by her will, but who also doesn't need to dominate her to feel like a man. A man who simply is and therefore attracts. Therefore, this video won't give you seduction tips or tricks. It will provide you with psychological, behavioral, and energetic pillars that transform your presence into something that generates involuntary sexual tension. Something that makes a woman feel small in the best possible way because she's not in front of another emotional brat she can control, but a man who activates her most primal instinct, makes her surrender. And this is where everything falls apart. Because contrary to popular belief, a woman doesn't want a perfect man. She wants a man she can't completely decipher, who carries risks but offers protection, who can leave at any moment but chooses to stay. A man with authentic testosterone energy doesn't seduce with words. He seduces with the threat of what he could be if he decided not to hold back. And this threat doesn't need to be explicit because her body senses it before her mind understands. We're talking about an invisible dance between biology, behavior, and archetype. A game where the winners aren't those who try the hardest, but those who understand the hidden rules that govern true female attraction. And these rules aren't moral or logical. They're visceral. They're the same ones that made women throw themselves at the feet of generals in ancient Rome, pirates on lost ships, and tribal leaders who knew what to say without opening their mouths. In the next chapters, you'll delve into 3 pillars, 3 behavioral structures that build a high testosterone presence. Let's talk about dominant presence, decisive action, and the most subtle and dangerous art, controlled unpredictability. Each of them not only sets you apart from the rest of the pack, but also places you at a level where seduction happens without conscious effort. Because when you activate these pillars, what you communicate isn't desire, it's command. And what a woman feels isn't simple interest, it's instinctive submission. But before that, dispel any idea that seduction is manipulation. True seduction arises from the coherence between who you are and what you convey. And what this video will teach you is to align your internal energy with the most powerful external expression possible. An expression that, when calibrated, makes even the most resisted woman ask herself, why with him do I feel smaller, and at the same time more secure than ever? It's because deep down, she's not surrendered to you. She's surrendered to the energy you carry, an energy that only rare men access. And now it's time to learn how to generate this from the inside out. Silently, but with eternal impact. He enters silently, but his silence isn't empty, it's dense. It's not the absence of sound, but the presence of a contained intention. When this type of man steps into a room, he doesn't compete. He doesn't show off. He doesn't need to force, because his mere existence communicates that, if he wanted to, he would take everything. The air changes. Women react without understanding. They adjust their hair, uncross their legs, and laugh more shrilly. Not by rational choice, but by reflex. The female body perceives before consciousness accepts it. He's different. He's not handsome like soap opera heartthrobs, nor charismatic like social extroverts. He is stable, and this stability is what threatens and attracts most. Dominant presence isn't about occupying physical space. It's about occupying the surrounding psychological space. A man with this kind of energy doesn't need to speak to be heard. He doesn't need to move to be noticed. And when he speaks or moves, every gesture seems purposeful. This is the kind of man who doesn't react to his surroundings. He shapes them by the sheer firmness with which he remains unshakable. A woman's mind naturally seeks references to protection, leadership, and emotional control. When it finds these in a male body that moves little, speaks even less, and never shows a need for approval, the effect is biological. She begins to compete for his attention, even without admitting it. And the most fascinating thing, he doesn't even need to be looking at her. Current culture idolizes the funny, talkative, good vibes man, but the female body. And here we're talking about primitive instinct, not ideology, responding more intensely to silent tension, to the charged air, to that kind of presence she senses in her back before turning her neck. And here lies the great contradiction. While many men think they need to win a woman over with words, the true seducer wins her over with what he holds back, with what he chooses not to say. Because silence well used carries a message. I don't need to convince you of anything. I am living proof of what I'm conveying. This kind of presence arises from extreme body awareness. It's impossible to be seductive if you don't know what your body is saying before you open your mouth. Shoulders thrust forward, a restless gaze, nervous hands, hurried speech. All of this screams insecurity, even if his words suggest otherwise. On the other hand, a man who moves slowly, who looks you in the eye without rushing, and who never over-lanes himself. This man activates the archaic circuit of feminine surrender in seconds, because he seems to have something most have lost: self-control. Classic reference, Marlon Brando. In his youth, he would enter the scene with a sneer on his lips, his shoulders relaxed, his gaze almost bored. But there was an underlying tension in every muscle, as if he could explode at any moment. The audience, and especially the women, felt it like pure electricity. It was unpredictable, it was real, and it was completely masculine. No memorized lines, no forced quips, no obvious compliments, just presence. Pure testosterone condensed into flesh and blood. Seduction began in the silence between one word and the next. And this reference isn't just aesthetic, it's practical. If you want to develop a dominant presence, start by eliminating excess. Speak less. When you speak more slowly. Pauses create tension. Move as if you already know what's going to happen. Never react immediately, not to compliments, criticism, or provocations. This ability to remain unfazed conveys an ancient message to the female unconscious. I am the predator. Nothing here threatens me. And it's this feeling that allows a woman to let loose in your presence. Because the opposite of anxiety is confidence, and the opposite of hysteria is control. And it's these two poles that attract. She wants to lose control next to someone who is in control. Think of the most admired men in TV series. Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinders, Ragnar Lothbrok, Vikings, Gustavo Fring, Breaking Bad. None of them are loud. None of them are explanatory. They speak only what is necessary. Their gestures are minimal, but everything around them bows when they enter the scene. It's not because they're strong. It's because they don't waver. They don't show unnecessary weakness. They don't apologize for taking up space. And this creates an irresistible aura of silent dominance. This is the key. The high testosterone man doesn't need to be convincing. He just is. And this energy of being absolute, of not bowing, is deeply aphrodisiac because it activates the instinct of selective surrender in a woman's body. That surrender that only happens when she feels she's in front of a man who could have anyone, but for some reason chose to stay there with her. And this can't be faked because the body doesn't lie, neither yours nor hers. Of course, this takes practice. You won't become this kind of man just by thinking positively or watching motivational videos. You'll become this man when you start to contain your reactions, slow down your speech, hold your gaze even when you want to look away, and resist the urge to fill the silence with small talk. Every time you hold back your anxiety, you fuel your presence. Every time you avoid justifying an action, you reinforce your authority. And every time you manage to hold your gaze steady while she tries to destabilize you, you're training her body to recognize your natural leadership. The problem with most men today isn't a lack of looks, money, or intelligence. It's energetic invisibility. They walk into a room and seem to apologize for being there. They approach a woman with a posture of emotional begging. They talk too much, laugh too much, react too much, and all of this communicates, "I need your validation to feel like a man." And that's when she loses all respect. And along with it, desire. Now, understand this. Respect doesn't automatically generate arousal, but there's no arousal possible without respect. And respect arises when you show that you don't need to be accepted because you already accept yourself completely. A woman senses this. She tests, she provokes. And the more you remain stable, the more her body surrenders, because the female body desires to rest on a masculine axis that doesn't waver. That's what she seeks. Rest within dominance, freedom within a structure. There is no seduction without structure, and a dominant presence is the invisible structure that sustains erotic tension. It's not about being rude, it's about being firm. It's not about intimidating, it's about being impossible to intimidate. A woman may not rationally understand why she felt attracted, but her body understands because her body responds to what's real. And what's real isn't what you say, it's what you embody. So, before any technique, phrase, or action, develop this: your presence. Stay silent for longer. Hold your gaze even when it's uncomfortable. Breathe deeply and move slowly on purpose. Don't react immediately. Speak less. Never correct your posture to please. All of this trains your body to communicate. I am the center. The environment organizes itself around me. And here's the kicker. When a woman feels this presence, she naturally enters a receptive state. Her body prepares to receive leadership. It doesn't matter if she's strong, independent, feminist, or traditional. Biology is older than any ideology. The feminine only flourishes in the presence of the firm masculine. And when that happens, there's nothing you need to say because the seduction has already happened silently. As always happens with true masters, she senses when you hesitate. She tests when you show doubt. She senses when you seek approval before acting. And in all these moments, even without consciously realizing it, she begins to close herself off. Feminine attraction is cruel to masculine indecision. The energy of a man who needs to ask permission to lead is an energy her body rejects because it's an energy that doesn't convey security, only neediness disguised as kindness. And here, once again, we face a brutal contradiction. Culture dictates that the ideal man is one who listens, yields, and consults. But the female body responds with real intensity to the man who takes the lead and acts without asking permission. This is the paradox of attraction. She desires a leader even when she swears she desires one like her. Decisive action is a phrase that seems simple, but what it represents is profound. It's an existential stance where the man doesn't delegate responsibility for his actions to the environment. He decides. He executes. He bears the consequences. A man like this doesn't ask if he can. He observes, understands the game, identifies the risks, and acts, not because he's impulsive, but because his actions are an extension of an inner clarity. This creates something extremely rare today: magnetic confidence. The kind of confidence that doesn't need to be explained because it's felt. A woman looks at this type of man, and something inside her calms because he seems to know what he's doing, even if he doesn't. This decision-making instinct is a legacy of testosterone in its most primitive role: rapid response to the environment. Imagine the evolutionary scenario of our ancestors. A predator approaches the tribe. The group looks to the leader. He doesn't consult everyone before acting. He throws the spear. This instant decision is what keeps the group alive. It's imprinted in our genetics. And for a woman, the energy of a hesitant man activates the opposite: distrust, vigilance, and even contempt, because deep down she knows if he can't decide on a restaurant, how could he protect her from something real? This isn't a license to be arrogant, much less authoritarian. Decisive action isn't imposition, it's guidance. It's an internal compass that a man develops when he stops seeking external approval for every step he takes, when he learns to endure the discomfort of being wrong, of being criticized, of taking responsibility for his choices. Because it's this kind of quiet courage that makes him someone who naturally inspires surrender. A woman won't tell you this in words, but she constantly tests your leadership. Every doubt she throws, every subtle provocation, every attempt to confuse or delay a decision. These are tests, unconscious tests, to determine whether she's dealing with a man who holds the groundwork or a boy who still needs guidance. And here, many fail because they mistake these provocations for rejection, disrespect, or drama. But in reality, they are invitations. Invitations for you to take the emotional helm of the interaction. If you understand this, every test becomes an opportunity to demonstrate emotional mastery. And the more you lead calmly and firmly, the more she surrenders without knowing why. Neil Strauss, in his book The Game, cites an essential rule. The man who leads the interaction sets the woman's emotional context. And this manifests itself from the very first second. You're the one who proposes the place, who initiates the touch, who drives the narrative, and, if you hesitate, she takes over. Not because she wants to, but because she needs to. And the irony is that when she takes over, she loses interest because she was biologically created to respond to male command, not to replace it. Testosterone action is always clear, clean, and purposeful. There are no random movements. You don't touch out of nervousness. You don't speak to fill the silence. You don't offer compliments expecting reciprocity. Every action is an expression of presence. You act because you choose to act, not because you feel pressured. And this reprograms the surrounding emotional field. People follow those who don't hesitate, and women melt for those who make decisions. Think of the stark difference between two men. The first asks a woman out and says, "Do you want to do something Saturday? We can see a movie or dinner or whatever you want." The second says, "Saturday 8 p.m., I'll pick you up. Prepare for a place with dim lighting and rich food." Both have the same intention, but only one of them communicates dominance, and only one of them activates the woman's feminine side. Because the first man puts the decision in her hands, the second gives the direction, and there lies the key to voluntary submission. She feels safe to relax into his leadership. The fatal mistake of modern men is to seek equality where the female body seeks contrast. Women want equal rights, but desire imbalance in the sexual dynamic. It's the energy of opposites that creates tension. And tension is what drives desire. If you try to balance everything, rationalize everything, consult everything, you kill the spark before it can be born. Because sexual tension needs polarity. And polarity only exists when there's one leading and the other responding. This also applies in bed. Men who ask too many questions, ask for too much permission, and seek a green light at every gesture create a cold, bureaucratic experience. A woman doesn't want that. She wants to feel like you knew exactly what you were doing, that you don't need to be guided, that you're the kind of man who acts with precision because you're in touch with your own instincts. Of course, this isn't about disrespect. It's about acting with such presence that her body opens before she even says yes. And the key to this is just one: stop reacting and start leading. Every man needs to master 3 types of action: physical action, how you move; verbal action, how you express yourself; and emotional action, how you handle pressure. If you start practicing these 3 points, you'll automatically stand out. Because most men are walking reactions. They wait for her to decide, for her to feel, for her to command. And when they do, they become irrelevant in the sexual realm. She may love you, she may respect you, but she will never give herself completely to a man she feels she has to carry on her back. Leadership isn't about speaking louder. It's about harboring fewer doubts. And this requires an inner discipline that goes far beyond appearance. A woman isn't enamored with muscles, status, or isolated intelligence. She surrenders herself to the man who acts without hesitation at the right moment, who takes the lead and embodies the certainty she herself sometimes can't access. This man becomes a mirror where she sees what's possible when she feels guided. Therefore, decisive action is a trainable gift. Start small, choose the places, set the time, take responsibility for plans, lead conversations, interrupt gently when she's too slow, touch first, kiss first, protect without asking for credit. Every time you decide quickly and clearly, you're teaching her body that you're a man who knows. And this energy is addictive. She feels it, she desires it, she loses herself in you. Because in the end, what separates the men she desires from the men she merely respects is simple. The former lead the moment. The latter wait for the right moment to act and miss. She needs security but gets bored when she's too certain. She wants stability, but her desire only awakens when there's tension. What sparks desire isn't comfort, it's measured risk. And herein lies one of the most overlooked paradoxes of seduction. While many men try to win through predictability, what truly activates the female instinct for submission is controlled unpredictability, the chaos that goes hand in hand with self-control. A woman wants to be surprised, not by childish impulsiveness, but by a man who carries internal storms and yet chooses to be calm. The danger of predictability is that it kills excitement, and excitement is essential for a woman to surrender. When a man always appears the same, always predictable, always accessible, he becomes a landscape, comfortable, yes, a friend perhaps, but never threatening enough to create sexual tension. Because the female mind, shaped by thousands of years of evolution, is attracted to that which it cannot fully control. And the man who alternates between sweetness and firmness, between presence and absence, between surrender and mystery, creates a dynamic that captivates. She tries to understand. She tries to decipher. But the more she tries, the more involved she becomes. And the more involved, the more she allows herself to desire. Robert Greene, in The Art of Seduction, aptly says, "Confuse desire with reality. Create the perfect illusion." And this illusion is built on the way you oscillate between controlled extremes. Not chaotic extremes, but calculated extremes. One day, you're the man who listens, compliments, and warms. The next, you disappear without explanation. Not because you're playing games, but because you're living with your own priorities. This brief absence isn't punishment. It's the construction of mystery, and mystery is the fuel of fascination. A common mistake is to believe that being emotionally consistent means being constant in everything, but it isn't. Being emotionally stable isn't about being monotonous. It's about being deeply centered, but with emotional nuances that show you have real depth. He's the man who can listen sweetly and the next second deliver a scathing provocation. He's the one who gently engages and suddenly pulls away with an enigmatic smile. He's never linear because linearity is anti-erotic, and a woman doesn't desire the predictable. She desires what keeps her alert. This kind of energy provokes something rare: constant curiosity. A woman doesn't feel in control, but neither does she feel insecure. She lives in a sweet tension where each new encounter with you is a chance to discover a new layer. And this is what activates the instinct of voluntary submission. When she senses that you carry secrets she wants to unravel, but which you only reveal gradually, as if testing whether she's worthy of another piece of the puzzle. Controlled unpredictability is the hallmark of a man who doesn't give everything away at once. He leaves spaces, he creates gaps, he allows a woman to imagine, and that's power. Because when she imagines, she invests emotionally, and the more she invests, the more she desires. This is the secret that nice men never understood. When you're completely available, you're disposable. When you present yourself as a challenge, not out of arrogance, but out of selectivity, you become unforgettable. Male logic is linear. Feminine logic is circular. A man wants to get from point A to B. A woman wants to experience the dance between the two. And when you embody this dance with movements that vary between intensity and mystery, She loses herself in you because she feels you're not trying to win her over. You're creating a magnetic field around yourself that pulls her into a game bigger than herself. But be careful. This only works when it's authentic. Pretending to be mysterious is pathetic. Disappearing as a tactic is childish. Being rude to appear unpredictable is repellent. True unpredictability arises when you live your own journey intensely. When you have other priorities beyond it, when you have layers, you don't give up to just anyone. When your absence is filled with real things, not manipulation. This unpredictability also shows in the way you react. A woman says something to test you, expecting a standard response. You respond with a playful tease, an enigmatic smile, a disconcerting silence, and she doesn't know how to react. This breaks her script, and when you break the pattern, you become impossible to ignore because her brain, programmed to seek predictability, is now addicted to trying to anticipate your next steps. This is control disguised as freedom. And, what's more, being unpredictable doesn't mean being emotionally unstable. Quite the opposite. The more internal control you have, the more freedom you have to play with your own expression. An out-of-control man isn't mysterious. He's dangerous in a toxic way. The man who controls his inner chaos and only shows what he wants to show when he wants to show it creates adoration. He's like a storm that chooses not to manifest itself. And this frightens, but also excites. A woman craves intensity, but not just any intensity. She craves the intensity of a man who makes her feel something different from everyone else. And this feeling only arises when there is emotional tension. Tension arises from the absence of predictability. And this absence is only effective when it doesn't compromise the feeling of security. The balance is delicate, but when you get it right, she surrenders like never before. Practice this in detail. Don't respond to messages immediately. Don't explain every disappearance. Change your tone mid-con conversation. Touch one way, then stop touching without explanation. Kiss calmly, and halfway through, hold her face as if it were the most precious thing. Then pull away as if it were nothing. Give and take. Appear and disappear, intensify and retreat, all with control, all with intention. This creates an addictive cycle of anticipation. And where there is anticipation, there is emotional submission. Finally, understand. Mystery is the art of giving just enough to keep the flame of desire burning without ever giving away the source of that fire. A woman wants to understand you, but if she can read you completely, she loses interest. Her desire is for the journey, not the destination. And when you become that journey, full of twists, turns, pauses, silences, and surprises, you become the man she wants to explore, but never dominate. Now you know what makes an ordinary man unforgettable. You know why some are remembered even after a single exchange of glances, while others, even when present, are ignored. You understand that it's not about pretty words, about appearance or effort. It's about energy, about command, about carrying within your body a presence that dominates before it can even be explained. But what I've shown you here is just the surface. True power is hidden between the lines. In the gestures that haven't been described, in the triggers that act silently, in the psychology that controls desire before a woman even realizes she's being seduced. And if you are tired of playing it small and missing on opportunities because you don't know how to seduce women, or you are ready to become a man that radiates charm and charisma, then join our waitlist for the Seducer's Blueprint, a 6-part course to help you rebuild your mindset with mental frameworks, such as the PLS system, Code of Silence, and the Circle of Three. These frameworks take the guesswork out of approaching beautiful women, so you can approach with confidence. Click the link below to begin your transformation. To give you a tease of what will be in the course, here is a short video.
Welcome to Module 1. This is the start of your 7-day transformation. I know it begins with an immediate high-leverage concept we call surgery on the ego. Here is the uncomfortable truth we must internalize before moving forward. The more you talk about yourself, the less magnetic you become. Module 1 challenge here. We move from theory to application. Your mission is to practice the Code of Silence technique immediately. In every conversation today, practice the Code of Silence mindset. Resist the urge to talk about yourself and utilize a high-value evasive reply.
What if I told you there is a technique for creating deep, instant connection that's so powerful it's been used by intelligence agencies? It's completely counterintuitive and flips everything you've ever been taught about attraction on its head. Let's dive in. So, let me just ask you this straight up. Is it possible that all your effort to seem impressive is actually pushing people away?
I used to be nervous when talking to beautiful women until I learned the techniques used in the Seducer's blueprint.
I really enjoyed the course. It wasn't difficult to understand, and I can't wait to try the techniques out.